Welcome back to This Explainer. Okay, think back to just a few years ago. If you were shopping online, there's a really good chance you were scrolling through ASOS, right? I mean, for over a decade, they were absolutely the undisputed champions of online fast fashion. They didn't just sell clothes, they essentially pioneered this whole concept of the infinite digital aisle. Their iconic packaging was literally everywhere, just piling up on doorsteps all across the world. They basically defined the digital storefront for an entire generation and set the gold standard for how we consume fashion on the internet. But recently, well, that massive, seemingly unstoppable revenue engine just slammed right into a concrete wall. So today, we're unpacking the ASOS Growth Challenge. We're going to look at exactly what happens when a relentless quest for global domination collides head-on with a sudden, massive profit crisis.
So for years, ASOS was defined by this one incredibly straightforward philosophy: growth at all costs. They were scaling like crazy, pulling in these astronomical revenue numbers by dropping thousands of brand new items onto their website every single week. It was an intoxicating era of expansion, and honestly, it looked like this unstoppable success story that was just going to keep compounding year after year. But recently, a pretty grim new reality has set in, and it's what we call the profit squeeze. Now, the fascinating and kind of terrifying thing here is that they were still selling mountains of clothes. Top-line revenue actually wasn't the immediate issue, but the actual profits backing those millions of sales, they were simply evaporating into thin air. It really is a classic business thriller. How on earth does a company scale its revenue so effectively, reaching customers in practically every corner of the globe, but at the exact same time watch its unit economics completely fall apart? Where does the money actually go when a retail giant just stops making a profit?
Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1. The Global Expansion Trap.
To really understand this massive profit squeeze, we first have to look at the major trap ASOS fell into. See, they didn't just want to win the UK market. They wanted total world domination, and their old focus was beautiful in its simplicity. Capture market share by offering incredible variety, 24/7 newness, and, critically, free shipping. And you know what? It worked perfectly to get millions of eyeballs on the site. But to sustain that massive growth across the US and Europe, they had to build out this incredibly complex physical infrastructure. We're talking pouring staggering amounts of capital into building massive state-of-the-art automated warehouses overseas. And suddenly, the new reality hit them. Operating a global supply chain is an entirely different beast from running a localized one. They were hit with massive international duties. They faced the heavy, continuous costs of localizing their websites for dozens of different regions, and they had to deal with highly fragmented European and US shipping zones. Every single step outward into the globe slowly but systematically ate away at the profit margins that once looked so incredibly healthy back in their home market. The sheer infrastructure required to literally be everywhere all at once was fundamentally eroding their core business.
Moving on to Part 2. The Bedroom Fitting Room.
Now, that international expansion was really just the setup. Here's where we meet the central antagonist of this entire story. Because this isn't just about supply chains or shipping zones. This is about a margin-killing consumer culture that, ironically, ASOS actually helped create. We call it the bedroom fitting room. It's basically the consumer habit of ordering multiple sizes and styles with the explicit intent of returning most of them. Because returns were historically totally free and effortless, which, remember, was a feature ASOS explicitly championed to win that initial market share, customers naturally started treating their own bedrooms like personal changing rooms. The whole psychology of the shopper fundamentally shifted. I mean, there was zero friction. You order 5 dresses, pick the one that fits best, and just send the other 4 back without a second thought. For us, the consumer, it's highly convenient. It feels like luxury service. But for a low-margin fast fashion business, it is an absolute unmitigated disaster that just rots the business model from the inside out.
Let's actually track the hidden, painful journey of just one single return dress, just to truly understand why this behavior absolutely destroys balance sheets. Step 1. ASOS pays the initial shipping to get that dress to your front door. That right there is a sunk cost. Step 2. You decide you don't like it, so ASOS now pays the return shipping to get it back across the country, or maybe even across borders. Step 3 is where the real bleeding happens. That dress arrives at a massive return facility. Now, unlike the automated robots that seamlessly pick your initial order, a real human being has to physically intercept this package. They have to open it, inspect the garment for stains or damage, meticulously fold it, and rebag it. Human inspection is incredibly slow compared to automated picking, and it creates this massive, highly expensive labor bottleneck. And finally, step 4. By the time this dress makes it through this entire logistical maze and is finally cleared to go back onto the digital shelf, an entire month might have passed. And look, in fast fashion, a month is an eternity. That item might already be out of season, meaning it immediately has to be marked down on clearance anyway. So, the silent killer of profitability isn't just the shipping fee, It's the sheer operational drag of processing millions of individual, rejected items.
Which brings us to part 3, the discounting spiral.
So, you've got high shipping costs and a massive return rate already destroying margins. But, incredibly, it actually gets worse. Remember those huge, high-tech, automated warehouses ASOS built all over the world? They're incredibly efficient marvels of engineering, for sure, but they carry a massive financial liability. They only work if the staggering volume of inventory inside them actually moves quickly. When stock sits still, the overhead costs are catastrophic. ASOS basically found itself trapped in a perfect storm of external pressures. First, the global cost of living crisis hit. Inflation soared, discretionary spending plummeted. This immediately changed what people were willing to put in their digital baskets, heavily slowing down global consumer demand. Second, aggressive competitors like Shein stepped onto the scene. They completely disrupted the traditional model by introducing ultra-fast fashion, dropping thousands of micro-trend items daily at impossibly low prices, eating right into ASOS's core market share. And third, that massive automation overhead we just talked about. Sitting on excess stock in highly automated facilities incurs massive daily operational costs. Suddenly, the conveyor belts aren't moving fast enough, the warehouses are overflowing, and hundreds of millions of dollars in capital are entirely tied up in unsold clothes.
And all of that leads directly to the core problem here, the discounting spiral. To clear out those overflowing warehouses and free up desperately needed cash, ASOS was forced to heavily slash prices. They basically had to rely on perpetual clearance sales just to get the clothes out the door and keep those automated facilities functioning. The result? They ended up selling more clothes and moving higher volumes, but they were making significantly less money on every single transaction. But honestly, the damage goes far deeper than just a single quarter's balance sheet. When you discount constantly, you fundamentally alter consumer behavior. You train the customer to never, ever buy at full price again. I mean, why pay $50 on Tuesday when you know it's going to be $30 on Friday? They were literally destroying their own unit economics and permanently eroding their brand equity just to keep the inventory moving. It's a vicious, vicious cycle.
So what do? Part 4, a strategic pivot, driving 2024.
Look, ASOS knew they couldn't survive operating like this. The narrative had to change dramatically from bigger is better to pure, ruthless survival and efficiency. Enter their strategic pivot, an initiative they dubbed Driving 2024. Now, this wasn't some shiny new marketing campaign to win back customers. This was a gritty, painful, and absolutely necessary survival tactic designed to rescue the entire business from collapse. Let's unpack how they're actually executing this. First up, they are strictly prioritizing profit over pure revenue growth. Revenue simply doesn't matter if every additional dollar is actually losing you money. Second, they are cutting unprofitable brands from the platform entirely, really trimming the fat and reducing that warehouse clutter. Third, and this is huge, they are tightening return policies, specifically targeting serial returners. This means deliberately angering a significant chunk of their user base. If you abuse the bedroom fitting room, they are tracking your account and putting an end to it. They're essentially firing their worst customers to save the company. And finally, shortening lead times for their in-house designs to stay nimble and competitive against those ultra-fast fashion disruptors. They are deliberately moving away from trying to be a platform for everyone and instead forcing themselves into being a highly disciplined, curated fashion destination. It's an incredibly painful transition, but honestly, it's a necessary one.
Wrapping up today with Part 5, the lesson for e-commerce.
The story of ASOS provides just a masterful case study for the entire digital age. The core takeaway here is that scale in e-commerce is a massive double-edged sword. Sure, you can grow your top-line revenue to the moon by expanding globally, building massive infrastructure, and offering friction-free perks like free shipping and free returns. But it will absolutely break your business if you don't master your logistics, deeply understand your unit economics, and price in the devastating cost of returns. Growth without a sustainable profit model isn't success, it's just a countdown to a massive operational crisis. Which leaves us with this final, very provocative question to chew on. Is the era of free everything in online shopping finally over? As ASOS tightly fastens its belt, cuts off serial returners, and fights tooth and nail just to survive, it really makes you look at your own shopping habits differently. We've all gotten so incredibly used to infinite choices, magically fast free shipping, and completely free returns. But the reality is, someone always pays that logistical bill. The math has to make sense somewhere. Can ASOS effectively navigate this brutal profit squeeze and regain its crown, or has the fundamental landscape and our expectations of online fashion changed forever? It is definitely something to think about the next time you casually hit add to cart. Thanks so much for learning with me today on this explainer, and I'll